I said the book just got here last night, but I did dig in a little bit. And you talk about sort of starting to break down those walls. How can we start to break down those walls or start to be seen?
Oh, it's so hard, Nate. It's just like it's terrifying, right? The walls are, like I said, they're much more comfortable.
Yeah.
Like I can hide behind them all day. And you're right, stash refers not only to the stashes of drugs and alcohol that I had in my rain boots and in my, behind the vanilla extract in my kitchen and
Yes.
like all these different places, but it does refer to the fact that I stashed pieces of myself away my entire life, not just while I was in addiction. And that's one of the things I came to understand after I got sober was that, my road to recovery started long before I picked up the first bottle. Whatever that first bottle was, my road to recovery began then, or my road to addiction began then.
Right.
And then my road to recovery, that for me happened when I checked myself into treatment. Like that was really when that began for me. But the bottle, as they say, was but a symptom of what was
Mm.
going on with me. And what was going on was that I was afraid to be myself. And I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware that what I was experiencing was fear. I thought it was, distrust of other people. I thought it was judgment. I don't like the way they do this. I don't want to be part of that. But underneath all of that was fear. And I didn't have a chance to examine it as I was going through it. But each time I made a decision based on fear, I stashed away part of myself.
Mm.
So my goal in recovery has been to really think about decisions before I make them and suss out my motives. And if it is based on fear, then it doesn't mean that I can't make it, but I need to be aware that it's based on fear. And for me, I need to talk to somebody about it before I take action on it. And that has slowed that roll a lot and allowed me to retain some pieces of myself.
Sometimes for me, even voicing something out loud,
Yes.
certainly to another human being, but even if I'm in the shower by myself and I just say something out loud, give it
Yeah.
that voice, that space, I'm like, you're fucking crazy. Do you hear what you're saying? But
Right.
certainly with another human being, just voicing things sometimes can either empower that thought or decision
Yeah.
or certify it as crazy for me.
Well, and for me, because I've been voicing things out loud to one particular human over the last 13 years, I already know what her response is going to be. Like
Yeah.
as soon as I think about saying it to her,
Yes.
I'm like, damn, she's just going to say this, this, and this.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to bring it up to her. I'm just going to do this, this, and this, and like
Yeah.
be done with it.
Exactly.
But I
And
need that
usually they're
perspective.
right.
And usually they're right. Yes, exactly. But perspective, I think, is the thing that I was lacking when
Mm.
I was in it. And so that process gives me that perspective that I need in order to make those changes.
I'm
Yeah.
curious about the 12 step community in Los Angeles.
So this is how I lured Scott to LA from Utah.
Oh,
Was he was in Camas, Utah, where there were, I think maybe there was one meeting a week, but in
that's
Salt
tough.
Lake, yeah, there were more meetings, but it was a drive for him. And for a number of reasons, he wasn't able to drive. So so it was, he was trying to get sober in a town that didn't really embrace recovery at that time. And for anyone who's in Camas, I'm sure it's much different now. And I'm hoping it's much different for all of you in recovery there. But so I was like, you should come to LA. There are lots of sober livings here. I'm sure you could find like a sober roommate. And we have meetings everywhere around the clock. And they're all different kinds of meetings. Like I go to a people of color meeting. I go to a writers in recovery
No
meeting.
way.
Yeah, it's great too. It's on Zoom. If you ever want the link, let me know.
Oh, I
Yeah.
do. I
Okay.
totally do. I
But
think the variety is just something I crave,
oh, isn't it great? Yeah,
Yes,
I love that there is variety. And I think there's more of it since the pandemic,
for
because
sure.
a lot of these meetings went to Zoom. And so, there are atheist meetings, and there's just all kinds of meetings. So whatever
Yes.
you are, whatever you're feeling that day, in Los Angeles, you can find it. So I lured him here to check it out. He did find a sober living that he liked. He then found a sober roommate that he liked. We didn't move in together for 6 years because
Oh,
we really wanted to take care of ourselves and our respective families first. And we dated during that time, and we were boy meets girl on campus, and we wanted to be sure that we were at an emotional, spiritual, and mental level, that we were a good fit for each other at those levels
off
and
campus.
off campus. But basically, we wanted to make sure that we knew each other well enough that we knew that we really wanted to be with this person before we jumped into anything.
Yeah. I mean,
Because you
we're
just
still
don't know.
learning ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Those first
Yes.
few years, I didn't know who I was, what I liked, what my hobbies were, the
Yeah.
food that I liked. I really didn't. It took years for me to learn about myself, and certainly before I could love myself or respect
Yeah.
myself. So that makes sense. I love that you guys took that time.
Well, and what you just said is completely true for me as a newly sober person, but it was also true for me as a newly divorced person. So what did I like on my own? When I went to the store, I bought milk like the first time at the store, and I hate milk, and
Yeah.
my kids don't drink milk, but I like, what do I
So,
like?
yeah.
I didn't know what I liked. I had gone in these, like, I was in these little ruts for so many years doing, things that we did, and I didn't know what I did. And so I really didn't need that time to find out what I did, what I liked, who I was. Then there's a sobriety thing on top of that,
Right.
which uncovered so much stuff, but it was a double whammy for me,
Mm.
getting divorced and getting sober at the same time. I don't recommend it.
Do you remember, Laura, when those things started coming back, or when you started to have these moments of gratitude in early recovery? Maybe the first thing, or I'm sure it was related to your kids, but that you first felt gratitude for.
Sure. I thought about, first of all, I was really grateful that I wasn't detoxing anymore. And that sounds trite, but it's true. My detox was terrible. I experienced withdrawal for months after that, actually.
Mm,
Not in the same way that I did when I was in treatment, but it was a really gnarly, just difficult detox. So I was very grateful that I was no longer detoxing. I was really grateful that my now ex-husband, and I were able to stay friends and put our kids first and continue to co-parent them. I mean, honestly,
that's
Nate,
great. Yeah.
that school where I was such a figurehead, where everybody was kind of talking about what was going on, a lot of people thought we decided not to get divorced because we still showed up at their concerts together and the games together and the parent teacher conferences together. And they thought, oh, they're together. And he did a really marvelous thing where he came over every morning and we all had breakfast together.
Mm,
And when I ended up moving, I sold the house where we had lived together and bought another house, and I bought it just a few doors down from his, so that we could be closer and the kids wouldn't have far to go, when
this
they.
this is
Yeah.
like my parents' story, and I can tell
Is
you
it?
from my sister and I will both tell you how important that was to us, and I'm sure that
Oh,
your kids thank you so much for that.
yeah.
That it, I mean, it truly changed. Divorce we hear can be so ugly and so nasty and competitive, but my
Yeah.
parents did the same literally down the street, and
Yeah.
it couldn't have been a better experience for us.
Thank you for saying that. My kids aren't very demonstrative about that kind of thing, but the gratitude comes from how secure they are. They are confident, happy, grown adults now, but they were confident, happy kids growing up, and they remain that way. And I really do attribute that to the fact that he and I, my ex-husband and I, were able to get out of our own ways and decide that this was our priority.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that,
Yeah,
though. That gives me a lot of, that makes my heart warm.
for sure.
Yeah.
We have differing perspectives on that.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it was interesting to hear it from your perspective as well.
And I'll just add that it wouldn't have been possible had I not gotten sober.
Oh yeah.
It would have driven a wedge. It would have widened the wedge between us instead of, we were able to get closer together and have that common goal. My priority when I was drinking and using was that was my priority, was getting well. I put that in air quotes too, for those
Yeah. Getting well. Right.
so that I could show up for my life. But it was getting well first, always, always, always.
So Laura, the book is out now. The
Yes.
podcast is ongoing.
Yes.
What is next for Laura?
I'm starting on another book, and
Right off the bat.
right off the bat, I've been writing it for a little bit, but I haven't devoted a lot of time to it. My intention after this book tour that I'm on right now is to sit down and for 6 months or so and just really write. And the great thing about our podcast, the only one in the room, is that
Available wherever you get your podcast.
Yes, wherever you get your podcast. Scott and I, our studio's in our home. So
nice.
And we can also, of course, record remotely like we did with you. But when we have Los Angeles-based guests, they can come here. And I can do my work from the same place that I do my writing. And the podcast, we're in our going into our 16th season. I think we have close to 600 episodes, 4 million downloads and counting. We are 1% ranked numbers, 1% globally for podcasts. And it's shocking to me, because you know how it is. You start it, you're in a vacuum, right?
A bubble. You're talking to yourself or
talking to yourself
in a room, and you're like, who knows who will relate to this,
right? And then some people are listening, and then they're sharing it, and then advertisers are like, we want to reach the people that are listening to you, and it's just this crazy. And it doesn't always work just like that for anyone who's starting a podcast. Don't be frustrated. I was told 7 years is when you really start seeing the fruits of your labor, at 7 years of doing a podcast. So that slowed my roll a lot, because I was like, I should be in the money by year 2.
Come on.
But it really is
the marathon, right? Like you've got to be in it for the long haul. You have to have sort of that plan on how the show is going to evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a delight. I've learned so much. I've gotten to interview so many interesting people like yourself and learn all these different stories. And because I'm a storyteller, I've only ever told my story. So the podcast allows me to tell other people's stories, or be that conduit for these stories to be told. Which
that's my favorite thing about it, is helping people that wouldn't normally have a voice, or even after they come on the show, and help them to navigate a way to tell their story and help to bring out the best way to tell their story. Oh, it's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah,
I love it.
I agree.
Laura, I love to leave our listeners with some tangible things or some takeaways, perhaps if they're in early recovery. What advice can we leave, or you could leave our listeners with?
I try not to give advice, but I will offer my experience with a couple of things.
Great.
Advice usually gets me into trouble.
Good point.
Because I love to give advice. I want to tell you exactly what you should do and how you should do it. So my experience was that I didn't let my feelings dictate my actions in early recovery. I did not ever feel like doing any of the things that I did to show up for my recovery, and I did them anyway. Some people call it discipline. I don't know what it was, but it didn't matter how I felt. I knew what the right thing was to do. I went to a number of meetings every day in early recovery. I was given instruction by people whose recovery that I admired. I followed those instructions, whether they seemed crazy or not. I've never experienced anybody asking anyone to do anything that would like harm them or anyone else. So it's not crazy like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just didn't let my feelings dictate my action. I prioritized my recovery above everything, including my children, which was the reverse all the time of what I wanted to do. You know, if my kid wanted something, but there was a meeting that I was supposed to be at, I wanted to forget the meeting and help my kid with whatever they wanted. But I found it to be better for myself if I went to that meeting first and then help my kid. Unless, of course, it was something like they were sick or whatever, like that kind of thing. Obviously, they got priority.
Yeah.
But, you know, for me and the way that my mind worked, then I would take any excuse not to engage in my recovery. Anything could be an excuse. So I couldn't allow that. I call them my 3 horsemen: rationalization, minimization, and justification. So
that's a trio.
Once those 3 things, any one of them entered the picture, I had to be like, nope, this is what we're doing today. It's on the calendar. We're going here. We're doing this. We're going here. We're doing this. We're speaking here. Then we do pick up. Then we do, you know, whatever it is. And the last thing was, and this is one of the things that I think really kind of got me into the predicament that I was in when I got sober, which was that being so far away from my authentic self that I didn't know who I was to take some time to get to know myself every day, which felt absolutely wrong as well. Like, to sit quietly with myself was dumb, like,
Yeah.
and it was wasting time. I should have been doing this, or this. It just didn't make sense to me. But I was told to do it, so I did it anyway. I took that time to sit quietly with myself. Things occurred to me, things appeared to me, things became clear to me during that time. I also exercised. I'd always kind of exercised, but I made more of a point to make sure that my commitment didn't get derailed by anything else. So I call them my non-negotiables. I meditate, I exercise, I hit a meeting, I perform some act of self-care besides the exercise and the meditation. Like, I'm getting a massage later on today.
Jealous.
I told you. And that's an extreme version of self-care,
right? Not the daily.
But then I get to engage in the things that I want to do. And eventually what happened was, those are also the things I want to do. Those things that I made myself do. Yeah.
It does switch, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. And not eating a ton of sugar, even though I really wanted that. For me, it was disruptive to eat as much sugar as I wanted. As soon as I put down drugs and alcohol, I wanted more sugar, and I ate it for a while. I'm not even thinking about gaining weight or anything like that. It just wasn't good for my head because it was the same high and low.
It sure is. Yeah.
Yeah.
You learn to cling to it in much the same way.
Yes. Yeah. And so that just became a substitute and not one that was good for me. So those are some of the things. Yeah.
So good. Stash, My Life in Hiding, is out now. Yes. Laura, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on the day my book drops. That's so great.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way.
I appreciate it.
Is your TED Talk available now?
It is. Yeah. If you just look up TEDx Laura Cathcart Robbins, no one knows how to spell that. Hopefully you'll have it in your show notes.
Yes, I will.
It's CATHCART and then Robbins, ROBBINS.
I'll find it and link it in the show notes.
I appreciate
that. Of course,
that.
With your book and the podcast as well.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Enjoy your massage, my friend.
I will.
I'll text you soon, okay?
Okay.
Bye, Laura.
Bye.
So good. So good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, where are you, Nate?
In Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I was thinking somewhere middle of the country, but then I saw the cow mouth.
No, just here in the Midwest.
There you go. Well, you're making it look good.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're flashing it up a little. So.
Yeah. Hey, I want to, I have a trip to LA on my 2023 board. So
when is it?
That's just like my vision board for 2023.
Your vision board. Okay.
Yeah. So,
well, hopefully we're here. If we're here, we'd love to take you out to dinner or something.
I will definitely let you know.
Yeah. Not for drinks.
Nope, no drinks, just dinner.
I mean, mocktails.
Mocktail. Listen, if we're going, if it's a good place, they're going to have a mocktail menu, right?
That's true. That's true. More and more places do.
It's very true. Thank you so much for listening today, friends. Hopefully you heard something that resonates with you. And if we help just one person, our job is done. Make sure you check today's show notes for all the information discussed in the episode and how to connect with our guest. And as always, check us out at thesobrietydiaries.com, youtube.com/Nate Kelly, and on Instagram at the Sobriety Diaries Pod. Please head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review the show, friends. It truly helps other people to find the show, and in turn, we can help more people. Until next Wednesday, try your best not to drink and be good to yourselves. Bye, everyone.